The Department of Defense has already slashed billions of dollars in government waste, including dozens of contracts, programs not related to the core mission of the Pentagon, but tied to diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as climate change and the department's response to the COVID pandemic. Well, now there's more opportunity with a new administration to end the use it or lose it spending that happens across the board before the end of every fiscal year. Joining us now to discuss this is OpenTheBooks.com Deputy Public Policy Editor Rachel O'Brien. Good morning to you, Rachel. Great to see you.
Good morning, Jen. Thanks for having me.
We know this is common practice for government agencies, that fear if they don't use it, they're not going to receive money the following year when they might need it. So what are some examples of this in the DoD?
Yeah, so these agencies, if they don't spend their entire budget, the funds go back to the Treasury, and they fear they might not get that the next year. So they spend it any way they can, including on really silly things. So we've seen ribeye steak, $16.6 million spent last year on ribeye steak in September, $6 million each on lobster tail and salmon, ice cream, $113,000 on ice cream, $118,000 on donuts. And this is all in the last weeks and days of the fiscal year. So every September. So last September, the DoD spent $79 million. Some of it was on important things like, aircraft and ammunition, but also on these really silly things that they don't need. And so all these other agencies do this too. DOT, they spent $35 billion in the last month of the fiscal year. HHS, $27 billion. The VA, $12 billion, Department of Energy, $9 billion. And it's not necessary. They should be held accountable for really misspending these funds.
Yeah. And quite frankly, this, as you mentioned, the end of last fiscal year during the Biden administration, already lawmakers say Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has done a great job getting rid of some Biden era programs that did not bolster our national security or warfighting capabilities. So what's the Pentagon's 2026 budget?
Yeah, it's the largest ever. They've asked Congress for over $1 trillion. And so we figure it's important to renew our call to the DoD to end this wasteful use or lose it spending. The reason we're calling out the DoD specifically is they're the largest spender here, right? All these agencies do it, but they've
never passed an audit.
That's right. And so we wrote a letter to the Defense Secretary and said, hey, this aligns with his goal of reorienting the DoD around its central war fighting and lethality mission, right? It's important to spend this money on purchases that bolster our national security, not on these lavish expenditures at the end of the year that don't serve our men and women in uniform.
And a lot of the wasteful spending that your organization has called out in regards to the DoD has been from the past administration, obviously, because, we obviously haven't had a full year even with, the Trump administration yet. But what are some other ways that this administration could cut the budget?
Yeah, these are problems for decades. These are things that the DoD does regardless of the administration that's in charge. They have required wish lists. And we've talked about these before. These, in addition to the president's budget request, right? We talked about that $1 trillion for the DoD. There are required wish lists that the Pentagon has to submit to Congress. That even if the president were to hypothetically request $10 trillion for the Pentagon, these military wish lists are required, and they're silly. There's no reason to have them. Get rid of those. We know that there's missing and abandoned equipment. This is one of the reasons why the DoD keeps failing its audit every year. We've left equipment in Afghanistan. We've left equipment in Ukraine. Can't account for it. That's a problem. Travel expenses. There's an audit last year that found that there's just missing receipts and transactions worth $1.2 billion. They're not able to review them to see if they've been wasteful or fraudulent, just because they don't have access to a payment system. And so things like that are easily fixable, and again can pick up that money and use it for the DoD's main mission.
Right.
We see why they keep failing these audits here.
Exactly. It's no wonder why they keep failing these since they started those in 2018. All right. OpenTheBooks.com Deputy Public Policy Editor Rachel O'Brien. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.